What's good, guys? Fantasy Joe back here with my quarterback league winners. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section down below. I'll respond as always. Check out my wide receiver league winners. Check out fantasy profiles on the channel. Mock draft just dropped. More league winners coming your way, rankings, all that good stuff. So check it all out. Let's talk Jalen Hurts. So in 2021, he finishes the QB9, averaging 21.41 points per game. That was in 15 games. He had a 61% completion rate, 3,100 passing yards, 16 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Also was able to rush for 784 yards and 10 touchdowns last season. And now the big thing for him is, I just read you those stats. They don't sound very good. And he's able to finish the QB9, quarterback 6 on a point per game basis, missed those 2 games. And then if we look at his rushing stats, he actually dropped from 57.9 yards per game to 29.7 rushing yards his last 3 games playing with an injured ankle. So I think his rushing could even come up a little bit from where it was last year if he can stay healthy for the entire season. Had 10 rushing touchdowns as well. Now he adds A.J. Brown to the offense, one of the most efficient wide receivers in all of football on a yards per route run perspective. They look to force him the ball, let him do some things with the ball in his hands. He's been a huge boost to Ryan Tannehill's fantasy stock in recent years. One of the most dangerous receivers with the ball in his hands. And I think there's a chance that they're more pass-heavy in 2022. If we looked at the way they started out the season, Jalen Hurts averaged over 34 attempts over his first 7 games, averaged almost 25 fantasy points per game over that stretch. Over the last 8 games, they averaged 24 attempts, 18.3 points per game for Jalen Hurts over that stretch. Kenny Gainwell is also looking like that he's been getting some first-team reps, could potentially be the starting running back. He's more of a pass catcher. They could add another weapon to the passing attack that way. The main reason I think Jalen Hurts is going to return so much on his draft capital right now, he's currently the 8th quarterback going off the board. He had an elite receiver. He still has Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert's a solid option. Kenny Gainwell's a weapon out of the backfield. He's in year 2 of this new system. He runs the ball at a high rate, and he's going to continue to, and they have one of the best offensive lines in football, runs the ball around the goal line a lot. He also has the 3rd easiest strength of schedule this season. When you add all that up, I just think he has a whole lot of area to go up. Like I said, was not very good if you look at just his quarterback stats last year, 16 passing touchdowns, just over 3,100 passing yards. Add some more weapons to that team, though, and I think he'll be much more efficient, much better for fantasy football. I don't think he'll be a great NFL quarterback by any means, but I do think he'll get the job done for fantasy, and I'd be very happy to plug him in, especially if I'm getting against the 8th quarterback overall. He screams top 5 potential to me, and I have no doubt he will be on a lot of championship contenders if he can stay healthy this season. Next up is Russell Wilson. In 2021, he finishes the quarterback 16, averaging 17.77 fantasy points per game. Missed some time with injury with that finger, came back and was not the same player right off the bat. But if you look at his start and his end of the season, averaged 23 points per game. Also, best offensive line of his career moving to Denver. He's been extremely efficient his entire time in Seattle. They've been a run-first scheme, not really wanting to let him throw the ball, and he's still dominated for fantasy. Before 2021, he had 4 straight 30-plus touchdown seasons. 22 was a quarterback 6, 2019 quarterback 4. 2017 finishes a QB1 overall. And like I said, that was all in Seattle with Pete Carroll, who does not really like to throw the ball, doesn't like to go up tempo. Nathaniel Hackett is going to be much more willing to throw the ball. They've already said that they're going to lead the tempo up to Russell Wilson. He likes to run a faster scheme. I think that's going to let them get more plays in over the year, which is going to be great for him for fantasy football. Like I said, this is the best offensive line of his career as well. They're ranked 16th entering this season according to Pro Football Focus. Last year, the Seattle Seahawks had a 37% pressure rate, which is absolutely insane. And he's dealt with that the majority of his career. They did have good weapons in Seattle with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett in recent years, but they also have great weapons in Denver. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Albert O, Greg Dulcich, KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick, just weapons all over the board, not to mention 2 quality running backs. Another Russell Wilson stat. He's finished among the top 6 quarterbacks 5 times since 2014, and he's currently going as a quarterback 10 in drafts. I think that's just because he's in a new situation when people don't know what to expect. I know what to expect, and I expect Russell Wilson to dominate for fantasy football. I think he's going to get more pass attempts than he's ever had, or at least close to it. And he's in a division, that AFC West, where they're going to have to put up points to beat the likes of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Chargers, even the Las Vegas Raiders. I expect some shootouts in that division. Another thing about Russell Wilson, he's not just a pocket passer. He gives you that rushing baseline. If you look at most of his healthy years, last year year he didn't do this, but every other year he's rushed for basically 300 to 500 rushing yards. In 2020, he had 500 rushing yards. He could easily do that again this season, but even if he just gets you that 300 mark, just adds a couple points per game under the average, makes him an absolute weapon. I think Russell Wilson finishes a top 5 quarterback this year. I'm very confident in it, and where he's going in drafts right now, I think he's going to absolutely dominate and increase the chance of you winning your fantasy championship by a ton this upcoming season. I think this could be his best season for fantasy football. So his stat prediction, I'm projected for 4,400 plus passing yards, 35 plus touchdowns, 300 plus rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Next up is Trey Lance. He averaged 17.85 points per game in 2 starts as a rookie, and that's when they didn't really want to give him everything, let him just run wild. I think they will give him a lot more freedom in the offense this season, getting that full offseason to sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo. Obviously, he offers a ton of rushing upside. We saw him run the ball a lot last year, 60 rushing yards per game. He had 1,100-yard rushing season in college. He's a big player as well, 6'4", 6'3" if you look at the combine, but about 225. Good size for a running quarterback. And here's the thing I'll point out about him. 2 things that the reason I'm really excited about Trey Lance is mainly this offensive system around him. Let's look at RG3, his rookie year when he was with Kyle Shanahan. Similar skill set, finished as the quarterback 5. Another thing, Trey Lance is far from the most polished passer, although he does offer upside in that area with his ability to throw the ball down the field, make explosive plays, extend the plays with his legs, etc. Jimmy Garoppolo, several years, has had over a 70% expected completion rate because of the way that Kyle Shanahan draws up plays to get the ball into his playmakers' hands. I think that will help out Trey Lance as well, especially in these early growing pains as he gets his few starts under his belt. Doesn't have a ton of experience. I think that's the biggest knock on Trey Lance. Not many starts in college, not many starts last season. He has gotten time to learn the offense, though, which I think will be extremely valuable. I think his skill set will allow him to produce for fantasy football regardless. Also, the weapons around him, he's got George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, one of the most explosive players in football once you put the ball in his hands. Kittle as well, probably the most explosive tight end. Him or Travis Kelce. I would even argue George Kittle, he's scored over 80-yard touchdowns in his career, has crazy speed, and has a great ability to run routes and get open. Brandon Ayuk, another weapon in that offense, and they obviously have the rushing game that's going to keep people occupied. I think once you add Trey Lance in that rushing game, it's going to become extremely difficult for defenses to stop. Obviously, there's a major draft capital investment into him. Trey Lance was taken with the number 3 overall pick. They traded 3 first-round picks to get him. What this means is I think he'll get the starts. He'd have to play very, very poorly to not be the starting quarterback for this team. When you talk about a guy, we were just talking about Jalen Hurts earlier. I think he could have a very similar season, if not a little bit better than Jalen Hurts had last year. And you're getting him right now at the quarterback 14. Jalen Hurts only threw 16 touchdowns last year, was a top 10 fantasy quarterback. I think he has that same type of rushing capability, better offense around him, better offensive system, better offensive mind, all those things. We've seen a rookie quarterback thrive in this system before for fantasy football. Trey Lance has a year under his belt. He isn't even a rookie anymore. And that season where RG3 dominated for fantasy football, he had 20 passing touchdowns. I think Trey Lance could easily get there. I'm projected for 3,500 plus passing yards, 20 plus touchdowns, 750 plus rushing yards, and 8 rushing touchdowns. I think he could easily have a 1,000-yard rushing season in his range of outcomes, which would make him an absolute smash play. This guy has top 5 potential for fantasy football, and you can currently get him outside your top 14 draft picks. That's why he's a quarterback winner. All these quarterback winners are guys I think can make a major return on their draft capital. This has been Fantasy Joe. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section down below. I'll respond as always.